represent what we as Muslims want to implement here in the United States. We believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
First move that I will do, I will abolish the Constitution and I will establish the only logical and rational Constitution, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
When it comes to spreading Islam on a state level, on a societal level, that method prescribed is jihad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed that the ones who don't accept the ruling of Islam, they must be fought. This is simply the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
You know what still blows my mind? It's that if you as a quote unquote Westerner, whatever that may mean, or even if you're not a Westerner technically, but you're somebody who holds at the foundation of your life Christian values, right? These Western ideals that were not only enhanced by Judeo-Christian values, but I believe thrived because of them. You will likely be labeled as an Islamophobe if you were to say the exact thing that those guys right there are saying, those imams are saying to us, because they're telling us that Islam is not compatible with what we have here. That's what they're saying. They're saying that your law, your constitution must be abolished in order for us to be able to practice fully what we believe in. That if you do not submit to what we preach, believe in, etc., then these two things are incongruent. And I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with those fellas right there. They're right. If you look in their book, you will find that they are incompatible in every which way. Now, we're going to get into a video of a lady who is explaining much of what is in this book, that the core of the Quran is jihad, which is their quote unquote holy war. You know, a lot of Muslims try to separate themselves from those elements of their religion or their doctrine. Many of them don't even know that this is their true doctrine, right? They're just born into it and just go along with it, right? This may be your neighbor, your best friend, whoever, you know, Abdullah or Fatima, or whatever it may be. Those individuals there are practicing what many of these imams would call a false doctrine, or they're not real Muslims. Because the real one becomes the jihadist. It's law. And so before we get into that, I want to read y'all just one verse that is going to show y'all that this is incompatible with what we believe here. More importantly, with Judeo-Christian values, or the ultimate Christian value. So here we have in Matthew, the 22nd chapter, verse 37. Well, actually, I'll start at 36. Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? So this is Jesus' disciple asking him, which one of these laws is the most important? You know, some of them are bragging about the laws that they follow and how they follow all the laws to a T and this one and that one. He say, which one's the most important? And this is what Jesus, Yeshua, the Messiah, says. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. And, you know, most would probably be like, I'm doing that. Yeah, I'm doing that. That's me. I aced that one. And then verse 38, this is the first and greatest commandment. Okay, we're good. All right, we can wrap this up. And he say, no, hold up, come back. No. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So he didn't go down the list of, 600 Mosaic laws through Deuteronomy. No, he didn't go through the 10 commandments. He said, love God with your whole entire being and love your brother and sister. And later it will say that if you bless God with the same mouth that you curse your brother, you don't actually love God. There is no love in you. That right there by itself would be enough to say that most doctrines in the world let alone Islam, which says the exact polar opposite, are not compatible. You know, you have many people who can come into the United States or come into some of these Western nations and maybe assimilate to a certain extent or maybe even fully integrate. But Islam does not allow for that because its inherent doctrine is that you must destroy your neighbor. When Christ speaks of your brother, he's not talking about your biological. Some of us, that's the hardest person to love. But speaking of your neighbor, speaking of the person next door to you who may be the person that took your father, mother, brother, or sister's life. As he was on that cross in his final words, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. As he forgives those who are literally in the process of taking his life, he calls us to do the very same thing. No greater love than to lay your life down for your brother. Huh? How can that be compatible with destroy all infidels? If they do not submit to Allah, then they must be destroyed. Did y'all hear the last words that this gentleman right here had? What'd he say?
I want to remind you, the ones who don't accept the ruling of Islam, they must be fought. This is simply the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
They must be fought, not be salt and light. No, not be an example unto the world. Oh, no. That didn't make it in that book. No. No, they said you got to fight. Now, we see our brothers and sisters throughout Nigeria being massacred by Islamists. This is the jihad. It will behead those who disagree, who do not submit. It will chop the limbs off of them. It will butcher and massacre family members in front of their own parents, their own children, etc. I'm not saying this because I want to demonize the individuals that subscribe to this, but we need to have a reality check on what it is that we're actually confronting, and also a reality check as to why this is happening, not just at a legislative level, not just at a social economic level, migration policies and all the rest. No, but at a spiritual level. Is the moment that we gave up God, we let go of God, the God, true living God. And we said, we'll take it from here. And the hand of protection was off because we chose to go our own way. All of a sudden, we find ourselves in this place where this foreign God, a God of war, a God of death, is now making its way into the Western world in a hurry. And it's very explicit and open as to its intentions. It's to destroy. It's to be at war, not to forgive and to accept. And there is no assimilation, as they stated. They are being the most honest that they can possibly be. That's the one thing I could say. They have never, I guess you could speak of maybe individuals who've come out with these messages, but overall, they've said what their intentions are. It's not like the communist who always comes through with the Trojan horse of some kind. Nah, with the Islamists, they come telling you, yeah, we're here to conquer. We're here to destroy. We're here to take over. We're here to implement our own law and eradicate the one that stands right now. We're here to assert our God and remove yours. But that part's easy because you've already let go of yours. You're already living how you want to live. You doing whatever. You've made everything else your God, all these foreign gods. 17 times it speaks of Israel having walked away, having abandoned the true and living God, and God wanting reconciliation over and over again, but it is for man to turn from his wicked ways. We think to ourselves, oh man, our foreign policy, this, that, and the third. I wish it was that simple. I really do. What's going to have to be given up is going to be far greater than anything that politics can do. It's not going to be you going into the booth and putting your ballot in, though that does matter, but only on the surface. You're going to have to put your bid in back for righteousness and to live right. And this is a message that, again, it has exposed me, who's somebody who's spoken on this issue 1,000 times over and only spoken of the political ramifications of it and the social ramifications and not gotten to the core of it, which is a spiritual element. Go into the book of Isaiah, go into the book of Jeremiah, go into the book of Daniel, the prophets of old who have spoken on this very same issue. Some folks try to say, well, it was just them, it was just Israel. No, this was speaking of principle. To say when you abandon God, when you leave God behind, quote unquote, can't really leave God necessarily. God is still going to be God, whether you're there or not. But the blessings that have been bestowed upon you, the hand that covers you, can be let go, can be released by your volition, by your will. Europe, they don't need God no more. They don't, right? They say we're good. We're too intellectual. We're too intelligent. We're too smart for this desert dwelling belief of old. And so they cling on to the God of self. And where's that God in them? Now they got foreigners taking over their land, just as it was said in Isaiah or Isaiah. Now you got foreigners running your land, taking your women and your children. We got to wake up, folks.
Have an agenda. What we're not trying to do is to assimilate into the American way. We're not trying to be like other Americans. That's not our agenda.
There's a network that's building, whether or not you know it, there's a network that's building on the underground all over this country and all over this continent. And inshallah, I hope, in 5 or 10 years, when things come to fruition, these people will take over, and inshallah, there'll be a source of light for the entire ummah.
I'm standing with my mentor, my sheikh here.
See, brothers and sisters, you have to understand where you are and the climate. For instance, the first 13 years in Mecca, the Meccan period, no verses about jihad. But then Allah revealed after the migration, وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. Fight in the way of Allah. So the general principle in the first 13 years is patience. I say the same thing here. The same thing here in these countries. Let us be patient.
Prophet said,
Patient for what? This is about conquest. It always has been from day one. Again, we're going to get into that final video where a lady describes much of what this book is actually about. Because again, most people won't get a chance to read it. There are those who assume themselves to be Muslims and they haven't even read it. You know, there's a lot of Christians out there or self-professed Christians who have never really gone through that word. And so you'll just go for whatever. You'll fall for anything. So I tell you, I advise you, go through it for yourself. Even if you need to challenge it in your mind. Some people have been brought to light because they have tried to challenge this word. And I was one of those. You try to disprove it in different ways, etc. And it ends up meeting you right where you are. Because he meets you right where you are. So, yeah. This is conquest. They make no sort of hesitations about letting you know. They will wait and wait and wait until it is time to attack. And it will come upon you suddenly. And all of a sudden you find desolation. Do you not know that there are nations that once prospered? The British Empire used to be exactly that. An empire. Now it's an island. An island. America has become, we have become arrogant. We think that we can't be touched. We think that it is our military might, our ingenuity, our entrepreneurial ways that have brought us to this place, forgetting that at the foundation was God. In God we trusted. Not saying that every one of those founding fathers was a righteous man or, a perfect man, but they were being used by God. They would have regular fasting and prayer and things of that nature. At the foundation, didn't mean everybody was or everybody was living right, but at the foundation. And therefore, they experienced the blessings that came as a result of that. And I'm not talking about a prosperity gospel, right? I'm not talking about manifestation and all that type of stuff. No, I'm talking about the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the creator of all things. God, the sovereign one, who does not need your approval, doesn't even need you to obey. That's your good. When you go along with God's natural law, you're the one who prospers. You're the one who is benefited. You cannot add a cubit. You can't add an iota to the infinite. But that's our hubris, our pride. We think that we're doing something to the Almighty when we do or don't do something. Now, that's going to be our greater benefit. And it will benefit not just us, but the ones around us, which therefore benefits us again. So if we think this is a joke right here, that we're being given over to the hands of those who see you as their enemy, you as somebody to be destroyed, we got another thing coming. I suggest you speak to somebody who has lived their life in a place like Israel, who have been close enough to that threat, who have lived in proximity to it, to know that this ain't no joke.
Fight the pagans, fight the kuffar with your tongue, with your pens, and with your hands. There's times and places for different types of jihad.
Wasallam has been commanded to do jihad. Jihad is a means and not a goal in and of itself. It is a means to establish Tawheed on the land. أمرت أن أقاتل الناس حتى يشهدوا أن لا إله إلا الله. I have been commanded to fight the people until they testify لا إله إلا الله.
Not to preach to the people and to love on them, to feed the orphans and to comfort the widows. None of that. They said to fight, because that's the God that they serve. That's the entity that they serve. That's the spirit that these folks are under. And I pray for Muslims every single day now. I do. And that's been a change that has taken place in me. And I know only God can do that. Only the spirit that quickeneth in me. I'm telling y'all straight up, you know me. If you've been watching my content for a while, God has been working on my heart. And every time I see one of these folks and I'm reminded and I see those, not burqas, I see the hijabs, etc. And I see the veiling, and some of you wear masks with the hijab. So it creates that veil. I pray for them. I say, God, free them from that. Show them who you are. You can see the oppression on these folks. Like, you can see the brokenness on a lot of these people, the darkness, the conflict in them. And when it gets difficult, because you see the things that are happening and that's coming up out of this, and, the actions of some of these people who are given over to this demonic doctrine, sometimes you want to hate and you want to do something. And then you have to remember, God is to be your avenger. And you fight in a different way. And that doesn't make sense to the rest of the world. They want to be up in arms. And this is not to say you don't defend yourself. That's something entirely different. You don't defend your family. That's something entirely different. But there has to be a renewed sense where you realize, like, oh, we're dealing with things that are far greater than anything physical. They just show themselves this way in the physical. Again, if you got ears to hear, eyes to see, you get exactly what I'm talking about. If not, this is just going to sound like a bunch of whatever.
The Arab world, when you go to school, any Arab kid, not just me, all we talk about is jihad. We don't talk about peace. If you open the Quran itself, it's all about jihad. So the culture was influenced by the Quran. The word peace was mentioned one time only in the Holy Book of Islam. One time only. And guess what did it say? Why ask for peace when you're on top? Meaning, why?
Meanwhile, Christ is the Prince of Peace. He comes in peace. He brings peace. That's the peace mentioned. Again, there is no compatibility. They cannot mix. How can you mix darkness with light? Righteousness with wickedness? It just doesn't match.
Seek peace if you're strong. So this is the only value for peace in the holy book of Islam. And this is a quote by Muhammad, by the way. And I'm quoting from Islamic books, not from my opinion. Muhammad said, I have been victorious through terror. The word terror is mentioned many times in the Quran. It's in the Quran. And he's proud of it as a way of becoming victorious and wealthy. Are you aware that in mosque services all across the Middle East, the service always ends with cursing of non-Muslims? The sheikh, the Muslim sheikh, would say, may God destroy the Jews and the infidels, the enemies of Allah. This is the ending of this spiritual experience of being in a mosque. And I was stunned that in the synagogue they were praying for the whole world, peace on earth. I left that day and I was like, something is wrong with my religion. Something is major wrong with my religion. I discovered that it's my religion that's cursing everybody and nobody's cursing us.
Wow. Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm feeling moved to continue to speak directly to those that are in Islam and are trapped or feel as if they are trapped in this thing. I'm so sorry that you went through whatever trauma it was throughout your childhood, that you had parents who did not deal with their own stuff. And so they continued to project it onto you and it became your own burden to carry. And you took on this dark and twisted and demonic doctrine upon yourself. And you called it your own. And you covered yourself. For my women out there, you covered yourself. You hid your identity. You hid your face in shame, believing that this is what was going to justify you in the eyes of God, an impersonal God, a God who sees you as nothing more than a mere human to play out some sort of part in this twisted, sick game, as opposed to a God who loved you so much that he was willing to die for you, to sacrifice for you on behalf of your own brokenness. That has made a path and a way for you to have ultimate relationship with him. I'm so sorry you didn't get the opportunity to hear about that one. The true living God who seeks reconciliation. That's the reason why you don't hear in the true church a cursing of any people. You hear truth being spoken, the exposing of darkness, absolutely, and we should more and more of that. The exposing of sin and sin nature and the overcoming of it, the sanctification, 100%. But to wish our quote unquote enemies to be destroyed, that is not Christ-like. To hold on to unforgiveness. I know there's folks in your life that have done you so wrong, And we forget that we have done other people the same type of wrong, right? We always feel justified in our own thing. It's like when we're reading, different scriptures about the adulterers and the fornicators and these ones and those ones, we think to ourselves, oh, well, that's not me. Surely that's not me. I would never for the life of me would I do any of those things. I'm good. I'm justified. I'm good. I'm a good person. And then you start reading stuff like this. Let me see. We 2 Timothy. Then you start reading stuff like this and it starts hitting you a little different. You start reading like, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous. You ever covet? Jealousy, envy. Man, I want. Boasting, feeling yourself proud, blasphemers, disobedient to your folks. But my folks are toxic. It didn't say that you got to make the behavior okay. Unthankful, ungrateful, unholy, or not set apart, without natural affections, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce. I ain't about to shut this one down. Not today. I don't know what that is, but we're going on. Despisers of all that is good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. You start to read that, it starts to look like a mirror to you when you have overcome your own pride and can see yourself clearly. That's why, again, there's been a working on my heart to say, bruh, these people are given over to a lot of darkness. But if there is any darkness in you, you got to deal with that and then go out and you can speak to those things. When Yeshua speaks of take the log out of your own eye before you take the speck out of your brother's, it doesn't mean you don't take the speck out or you don't attempt to. It just means you got to deal with your stuff and then go out there and help folks to deal with theirs and to step out of the way with that. And so, again, when I'm seeing these folks, as hard as it is sometimes, because sometimes it takes me all the way off. I feel some type of way. I can feel that anger. I can feel some type of way, but it has been easing more and more into understanding to say, man, these folks right here, they've been gotten. And the path that they're going down, God don't even wish for them. In all his righteousness, in all his perfection, does not wish that for them, but they can choose that for themselves. And that's the direction that they're heading down. And so the least I can do is to love them at some level and some extent. And for me, the love that I've been called to is to tell the truth, the big T truth and the small t truths, the ultimate truth of salvation, the gospel, that big T truth, and the small t truths, which is the way that you're going, the way that you're heading is going to lead to destruction. You're going to suffer as a byproduct and as a ramification of this. These men that y'all saw, they're deceived and they believe that their darkness is light. They think they're in the right. When you look at them, they are convinced of this. They're convinced that you must be destroyed if you don't bow the knee to this demon, to a false god and a false prophet. And some would say, scholars would say, this man may have not even existed. This is a book that was written, they like to criticize the Bible, right? Oh, well, the first gospel was written off. It was in 70 B or 70 AD and da-da-da. Okay, so you got one that was written, let's say what, 30 some odd years after Yeshua. Written. We're not talking about witnessed and spoken of and spread, because by that time, the way, as it was known, was already spreading throughout that region of the world. So you want to compare that to 150 years after this Muhammad character existed. Now you have these books being written, these transcriptions taking place 150 years after. Interesting. Again, we're not here to get into that specific part, but this is the person that they have given their lives over to, that they have chosen to believe in and hinge their entire eternal existence upon. And so the temporal, The mortal life that we live is going to be hinged on that, and we see it playing out as violence, as vileness, as debauchery, though it is dressed up in what seems to be religiosity, which is one of the things that Christ came to free us from. This religious prostrating, and we're out there, folks are lashing themselves, trying to make themselves righteous. And he said, none of that will work. There's not enough sheep in the world that you can sacrifice. It had to be a perfect sacrifice once and for all, and you can choose that or not. None of all of that is none of it. Again, going back to that very first verse I share with y'all, which one's the most important of these commandments? I told you what it is. Love God and love people. Ooh, I can do the God part. I don't know about the man part. My cousin owes me $55. I don't know. I don't like him very, my daddy did this. My mama did. My neighbor. Man, how many times should we forgive if somebody, transgresses us? Okay, 7 times. All right, bet. I'm on 6 right now. So they got one more. No, I said 70 times. 7 times 77. And then you could put another 77 on top of that one. By the time you're done forgiving, it's going to be gone. It's going to be out of you. I didn't say you have to bring everybody back into your life. I didn't say that you make okay the things that the person did or is doing to you. I didn't say that. But you got to let it go. You got to wash yourself of that. You got to let it go for your sake. You're the one who's going to be benefited from that. That's the part that really, really got to me to say, brother, you can hold on to this spirit all you want of just contention and feeling some type of way and jadedness. But for what? What are you getting from it actually? Besides sicker. Besides more mentally ill. That's why when I speak on somebody on this platform, I do my best to. I could be petty in a lot of different things or, snarky. But at the end of it, I can't let it come from a place of hate or disdain. Because I will still sit here. I will still go home and I will still pray for you. Genuinely. Not one of them, I'm going to pray for you. Because no. Like I will. I really will. God, please open their eyes. Please let them see. Let your will be done in their life. Even if they did me dirty, they did me wrong. There were people that did things to me in my life when I was running around in the streets or whatever it was that I had to let go of them. I had to let go of them, not just in the physical as far as distance myself from them, but I had to let go of them in my heart and to move forward because it was consuming me. It was eating me alive. And so a lot of these folks, they're dealing with resentments. They're dealing with anger. They're dealing with bitterness. They're dealing with confusion. They're lost. And your love may very well be the thing that transforms them. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there. Or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I've been up for hours, I've been up for days, staring at the ceiling, I've been counting strays, I've been in my feelings, I've been out of mind, I've been getting visions of the other kind, I've been up for weeks, I'm in the counting blessings over counting sheep, I can never be the type to limit when it comes to me, I used to be the pleaser for the people.